Where are consumers seeing the least bang for their buck these days? Is it in Germany or in the USA? And what's driving the increased cost of living in each country?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard.
All right, let's go. Hi everybody, Happy New Year and welcome back to my channel. If you're a longtime follower, you probably caught my grocery comparison video where we took a look at what you pay for staple food items in both the US and Germany. And while this comparison was just a single snapshot in time and only looked at two grocery stores, one in Overland Park, Kansas, and a second in Freiburg, Germany, my analysis was still representative of a larger trend that we've been seeing, which is that even with VAT, groceries are simply just more affordable here in Germany. But this last year has been tough on everyone's wallets, especially when it comes time to feed the family. The cost of groceries have not just simply been on the rise, but have actually been outpacing general inflation. So in today's video, I'm repeating my micro-analysis. I went back to the exact same grocery store. I bought the exact same foods exactly 1 year later, all so that I can better understand how much exactly have food prices risen in the past 12 months and how does this compare to general inflation? And since I fully recognize that a couple trips to the grocery store does not a scientific study make, I'll compare my shopping experience to nationally reported data on inflation and food costs and try to better understand how today's inflation will persist and if there will be any relief in sight at the supermarket. But before we dive into the grocery shopping, there are a couple of small but important things that are worth pointing out. For starters, both food prices and sales tax are not the same everywhere in the United States. Both are highly location dependent. I was shopping in Overland Park, Kansas, where there's a combined sales tax of 9.61%. So I'm going to be sure to show this on the screen along with the shelf price or the retail price so that you can do the mental math and see how groceries compare to your neck of the woods. In Germany, VAT or value-added tax is included in the shelf price. For most grocery items, this is 7%. Second, I did my best to compare similar brands at similar stores so that you could have a comparable analysis. But I was very much not value shopping. In both the US and Germany, better prices can probably be found elsewhere. And finally, while the dollar and euro are somewhat close in value, it's not exactly one-to-one, and this changes daily. So at the end of this entire comparison, I'll show you the totals of what I spent at the grocery store, and I'll do a quick conversion so that you can see what this would have cost in either the US or in Germany, converted to both euros and dollars. So let's go shopping and see how inflation has played a role in what you and I pay for groceries in the US and in Germany. And throughout this video, please be sure to let me know down in the comments on what you think of these grocery store prices and how they compare to groceries that you have recently bought at the supermarket as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. First up is the common household staple of a loaf of bread. Last year, when I went shopping, a loaf of S𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗥𝗧 wheat bread in the United States cost $4.46 with tax, while in Germany, a loaf of wheat bread cost €1.69. But fast forward 365 days later, and that same loaf of bread in the United States now costs $4.92 with tax, which is an increase of 40 cents on the shelf price. And when tax is included, you're gonna see about a 10% increase in the price of that loaf of bread. And in Germany, the cost of the same bread was now €1.89. Still, for sure, cheaper than the United States, but with an increase of 20 cents, that's gonna be a 12% increase from year to year. Next up are eggs. And last year, a carton of 10 large eggs, the largest size they offered in Germany, was €3.29, while in the United States, a dozen of Highland Best extra large eggs was $4.57 with tax. Now here we did have a difference in quantity, so I broke this down to price per egg, which you see up on your screen. Also, just a heads up, yes, I fully recognize that a German large egg is probably not exactly the same size and weight as an American extra large egg. These were just the largest eggs that I could buy at each grocery store, and I was just doing the best I can. But fast forward 1 year later, and I have to say, eggs are probably one of the more surprising things that I found from this comparison. I was fully expecting these to go up, but the same carton of eggs in Germany are actually the same price as they were last year, €3.29, while in the United States, the price of eggs have actually gone down to $4.04 with tax. This is actually a 38-cent decrease over the shelf price, and when tax is included, it's savings of about 8%. Now, I'm not actually doing a cost comparison on this video. It's worth mentioning that the price per egg is still a little bit cheaper in Germany, but given the prices of eggs and how much they had been rising, it's actually really nice to see some cost savings in this category. Next up is milk. And last year in Germany, 1 liter of Schwarzwald milk retailed for €1.69, while in the United States, a half gallon of Highland milk cost $3.37 with tax. Once again, there's a difference in quantity here, that pesky American imperial system, so converting to a common liquid measure, I was surprised to see that the cost of milk was nearly identical in both the US and in Germany. So I was curious, how do things fare 1 year later? Well, today, the same liter of Schwarzwald milk cost €1.65, 4 cents cheaper and a 2% savings from last year. And the Highland milk is the same price as a year before, $3.37 with tax. Pretty nice. Now, like you, there are many considerations that I might make before moving or traveling abroad, and the cost of food is definitely a big one for my family. So heading to the grocery store and conducting comparisons like this can not only be an opportunity to compare the cost of living before your next trip abroad, but also an opportunity to practice language learning. That's why I use Lingoda, the sponsor of today's video, because they offer a really powerful tool to integrate language learning into my everyday routine. Lingoda is an online language school that connects students across the world with native level teachers in live classes to learn a language. They host one-on-one or small group learning sessions on Zoom for a range of abilities from beginner to advanced. And with 24/7 classes available in English, Business English, Spanish, French, or German, you can find an immersive and flexible learning experience tailored to your needs. And each of their lessons actually include extra online learning materials so that I can practice my new skills and really lock in my language learning. And for me, this was perfect because I could attend the small group classes when it fits my busy schedule and then practice my new skills independently. My personal favorite is their vocabulary trainer, which is tailored to the lessons I've already taken. I can test myself after each class to review, so that way I feel extra confident when speaking German out and about and running everyday errands, like at the grocery store. But perhaps their most ingenious tool are their sprint and super sprint challenges. If you stay consistent in your language learning, you're actually rewarded with either 50% of your money back or free credits to take more classes. So join the Lingoda Language Sprint and hit the ground running in 2024. This is a method that will truly help you meet your New Year's resolution goals and level up your language learning. So click my link below to save up to 30% and use my code TYPEASHTON for an additional €20 or $25 off. All right, so next up for this comparison is yogurt. While it might not necessarily be a staple in every household, it certainly is a breakfast favorite in ours, and one I was really interested to compare. Last year in Germany, a 200-gram cup of Weihenstephan yogurt retails for 65 cents, while in the US, a 5.3-ounce cup of Anderson Erickson dairy yogurt was $1.03 with tax. Now last time, I equalized both to a price per 100 grams in both USD and euros for a cost comparison, and was pretty shocked to see that the American yogurt was nearly double the cost. But fast forward 1 year later, it looks like those 4 cents that we saved on our milk in Germany has been absorbed by the yogurt. The same cup of yogurt actually increased to 69 cents, or a 6% increase overall. And the same story was true in the United States, with yogurt there also increasing 4 cents to 99 cents per cup retail, or an increase of about 5% when tax is included. Another breakfast favorite is bananas. And last year in Germany, bananas were being sold at our store for €1.59 per kilogram. So 4 bananas, or 0.686 kilograms, cost me €1.09. In the United States, the bananas were being sold at 68 cents per pound. So 4 bananas, or 1.58 pounds, cost $1.17 with tax. Now, of course, after doing some conversions and comparisons, it was clear that the bananas in the US were cheaper, even though the bananas at that time in Germany were on sale. And looking at things 1 year later, the price per kilogram of bananas has gone up significantly in Germany to a whopping $2.49 per kilogram. Guys, that's an increase of 90 cents per kilogram. So for comparison's sake, if I bought the same amount of bananas as last year, my cost would now be €1.71, or a 57% increase than what I paid last year. Now, to be fair, like I said, when I purchased bananas last year in Germany, they were on sale. And where I shopped at Rewe, they don't actually tell me what the regular retail price is, they just simply show me the sale price. So in all actuality, it could be that the regular retail price and the price that I paid this year are more on par with one another, but I can't really know for certain. All I can say is that these prices are, well, bananas. But interestingly, the banana price gouging was pretty much non-existent in the US, where the price per pound was exactly the same. So needless to say, US bananas are actually now a heck of a lot cheaper than bananas here in Germany. Now, meat is one of those grocery categories that can really be a budget buster, and one that I personally watch pretty closely. Last year in Germany, 250 grams of beef was €3.49, while in the United States, 1.07 pounds of ground beef was on sale when I shopped and cost $3.49 with tax. Now, converted to grams and with the exchange rate, the American beef was slightly cheaper a year ago, but again, it was on a special sale at that time. However, this year when I went shopping for beef, it was a totally different experience. For starters, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of screwed up here. I went shopping the day after I flew back to Germany, which happened to be the Saturday before New Year's Eve and New Year's, when the grocery stores are going to be closed for 2 days. And if you've ever gone shopping in Germany before a 2-day holiday, it's pretty much doomsday shopping, and they clear out the shelves of practically everything. So by the time I made it to the grocery store, the beef and a lot of other meat items were, well, gone. However, I can still see the price on the shelf, so we can use our imagination here. So this year, 250 grams of ground beef in Germany actually cost the same as last year, still €3.49. But in the US, the story was quite a bit different. Ground beef there now costs $7.19 per pound. Again, granted, last year when I bought this, it was on sale, and it's not this year, which of course impacts the experience. However, in the US, they do actually show you the regular retail price in addition to the sale price. So even if you compare this year's ground beef in the US to the regular non-sale price of last year, prices would still be higher, and quite a bit so. 90 cents more per pound retail, or 14% higher. And last but not least, if red meat just isn't your thing, I also wanted to check the price of chicken as well. Last year in Germany, 0.489 grams of chicken breasts, which is about 2 breasts, sold for €4.84. Again, to be fair, Rewe indicates that this was a sale price, with a price of €9.90 per kilogram. Again, they don't actually tell me what the original retail price was before the sale. On the other side of the pond, in the United States, 1.09 pounds of chicken breasts, again, 2 chicken breasts, retailed for $8.19 per pound. So that cost me $9.74 with tax. So how are things 1 year later? Well, chicken was not on sale this year, and the price per kilogram has gone up a lot. From €9.90 per kilogram to €14.90 per kilogram. Guys, €5 more. So had the shelves not been ransacked and I was able to buy the exact same weight of chicken from last year compared to this year, it would have cost me €7.28. That's an increase of €2.44, or a 50% markup. Again, this is also likely contributed to the fact that chicken was not on sale this year. But again, they don't tell me the original price, so I can't be certain exactly how much of this is inflation and how much of this is just sale to non-sale price. But what I can say with certainty is that chicken is a heck of a lot more expensive in the US, increasing 68 cents from $8.19 per pound to $8.87 per pound, or about 8%. All right, now on some level, comparisons like these kind of just have to be taken with a grain of salt because they're just a single snapshot in time, and I'm only looking at 2 grocery stores here. But I love doing comparisons like these because grocery shopping is something that I think universally we can all empathize with. And it's something that we all participate in regularly. So when things like inflation come into the factor, so when things like inflation are factored in, we can all kind of feel the pinch. And while we might not feel that pinch on a week-to-week basis, over the course of a year, it can really make an impact. So let's assume that our weight-dependent items, our bananas, our chicken, our beef, are exactly the same as they were 1 year ago as they are today. What would my grand total be, and how much has that changed? In the US, the total price of our staple items 1 year ago was $27.84. Today, those same items cost me $31.94, $4.10 more, or an increase of nearly 15%. And in Germany, a year ago, the total price of our staple items was 16.74 euros. But today, those same items cost me 20 euros even, 3.26 euros more, or an increase of 19.5%. Granted, I do think a considerable amount of that can be attributed to sale items versus non-sale items. But even with that being factored in, the truth of the matter is that groceries are on the uptick, and there's a lot of data that supports this. When we look at much more comprehensive data provided by the US Bureau of Labor Statistics and German Destatis, we can see that in both Germany and the United States, reported food inflation has risen at a faster rate than the broader consumer price index over the previous 12 months, for any given month. Thankfully, the rate of rise has started to stabilize. However, in both countries, grocery prices are still projected to rise in 2024, albeit thankfully at a slower pace than they've done the prior 2 years. But like many of you at this point in the video, I was very curious to understand what's behind all of this rising food cost. Well, it's complicated. Food prices are rising because of several factors. For instance, labor costs are still high. This is true in both Germany and the United States. And supply chain issues that began nearly 4 years ago have continued to affect the global food supply. But the war in Ukraine, a country, by the way, which is nicknamed the breadbasket of Europe, has undoubtedly impacted global food supplies. Ukraine's food exports have historically accounted for 9% of global wheat and 12% of the corn market. And although the majority of Ukrainian grain feeds the global south, the rise in food prices, as well as increases in fuel costs, have plunged millions of more vulnerable families into food insecurity. And even though generally good crop yields in other parts of the world have helped to close the gap, the war adds complicated dimensions on energy and fertilizer prices, goods that Russia is a large exporter of and also indirectly affected food prices. But it's important to underscore that often increases in inflation aren't actually directly correlated to the increase of the price of the good itself, but rather increases in the production of that good. According to most experts, only about 25% of the food prices at the grocery store are directly attributable to the underlying commodity price, meaning that if the price of corn goes up, then so will the cost of feeding the chickens and the pigs that are later slaughtered for meat, or cows that produce milk that is later sent to the grocery store. In short, food production costs are rising, and this is something that my family can actually personally attest to because my dad is a corn and soybean farmer in the United States, and the costs of production for him have definitely been on the uptick, particularly with fertilizer. And I know German farmers feel similar strains. Just last month, hundreds of German farmers and their tractors protested against the government's plans to cut diesel subsidies and tax breaks for agricultural vehicles next year as part of Berlin's 2024 austerity measures. But I think much of the story of the rise in food costs for us over this next coming year isn't really necessarily a question of if they will rise, but how much they will rise. The last 2 years have been truly exceptional for grocery shopping, with food prices outpacing general inflation. And although I know that nobody likes to pay more for their groceries, the good news here is that at least the prices aren't rising nearly as quickly as they have been, which is a good thing. What we are currently experiencing with food prices is disinflation, but not deflation. And although the difference is technical, essentially what this means is that there's a reduction in the level of inflation, but not a negative regression in inflation overall. Now, the central bank has a target inflation of 2%, which means that if they were actually able to hit it, things next year will be 2% more expensive than they are this year. Right now, things are hovering in the mid-3s, but that's a heck of a lot better than what it was just last year, which was in the 9s. But it's important to point out that while things are getting better, they're not necessarily getting cheaper. Things are still going to go up 3% each year if the current levels hold. Hopefully we won't see grocery store prices rising by 10 to 15% like we did see over the past year or two, but who knows, maybe I'll have to repeat this experiment next year and see how inflation has impacted grocery store prices once again. But as always, guys, I would love to hear from you down in the comment section on what you thought of my grocery shopping experience this week. Are the grocery store prices that I experienced similar to what you've been seeing as well? What have you seen the biggest increases, whether that is in meat or dairy or eggs or produce or your staple pantry items? Let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, if you enjoyed what you saw today, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And for more content from TYPEASHTON, hit that subscribe button. So I'll see you next Sunday. Tschüss!